Let's talk about the Spanish Civil War and how it set the stage for Spain's role in World War II. It was a true ideological battleground. On one side, we had the Republicans, who got support from the Soviet Union and Mexico. This foreign aid was crucial to them. But their side was filled with internal fights, which made things hard. The Soviet Union helped with weapons and advisors, but the Republicans still struggled to maintain unity.
Exactly. And then there were the nationalists led by Franco. They had a clear path, thanks to strong support from Germany and Italy. Both of these countries sent military aid, which gave Franco a big advantage. Tanks and other supplies came in, making the nationalists more powerful. Franco's rise to power was quick. Once in charge, he had to decide where Spain stood globally, especially with World War II starting just after the Civil War ended.
After the Spanish Civil War, Franco faced many new problems. Spain had just ended a tough war, and now World War II was here. Franco needed to choose carefully. He had to think about who would be Spain's friends and who would be its enemies. The country was very weak, so Franco had to be smart. He did not want Spain to go through more fighting, so he had to balance between the Allies and Axis.
Yes, Franco's meeting with Hitler in Hendaye was very important. Franco was thinking about joining the Axis, but had some demands. He wanted some land from France and other help to make Spain better. But Hitler did not agree to give Franco what he wanted. They talked for many hours, but nothing changed. Franco's demands were too much, and Hitler did not need any more problems. So, Spain stayed out of the war, at least for the time being.
Franco was under a lot of pressure from Germany to join the war. They really wanted his help because Spain had a strategic location. However, Franco was not convinced. Germany wanted to use Spain as a way to attack Gibraltar, but Franco saw this as risky. He feared that if Britain saw Spain as a threat, it could lead to more tensions or even attacks on Spain. This made him very cautious with his decisions.
Absolutely. And Franco's resistance was noticeable. Even when Germany promised supplies and help, he was still careful. He thought that keeping Spain stable was more important than getting involved in more conflicts. Meanwhile, the Allies had their own plans. They knew Spain needed resources, especially after the Civil War. So they aimed to limit Spain's access to things like oil, hoping to push Franco to stay out of the war altogether. These strategies made things quite challenging for Spain.
Franco was in a tough spot. The war was close, but he tried to keep Spain away from it. By not letting Germany use Spain as a path to Gibraltar, he avoided a big conflict with the United Kingdom. This helped Spain stay out of direct fighting. Even though it was hard to take such a stance amid pressures, Franco managed to keep his country from the full consequences of the war that many other countries faced.
Yes, the Allies were actively working to make sure Spain stayed neutral, but they were also keeping a close eye on Franco's moves. Their economic restrictions were part of a broader strategy to ensure that Spain remained out of the Axis's grasp. These economic maneuvers were not easy for Spain, but Franco continued to focus on keeping the country safe, which was crucial for Spain's future stability. His actions during these times were very important for Spain's position in the global stage.
A very interesting part of Spain's role in World War II was the involvement of the Blue Division and the Blue Squadron. These were volunteer groups mostly made up of nationalist forces who decided to fight alongside Germany. They were told they would only fight on the Eastern Front against the Soviet Union, and this was important because it meant they were not directly fighting the Allies, like the United States or the UK. It was Franco's way of giving some support to Germany without really committing to the Axis fully.
Yes, and while Franco allowed these volunteers to join the war, it created a political backlash. At the Potsdam Conference in 1945, Joseph Stalin was really upset about it. He wanted revenge and suggested an attack on Spain because of their volunteers fighting against the Soviet Union. But Winston Churchill and Harry Truman thought differently. They convinced Stalin to limit his actions to a trade embargo instead. This was a huge move, and it had long-lasting effects on Spain.
Right, the economic sanctions put a lot of pressure on Spain. The lack of trade and resources made life very hard after the war, and despite not fully joining the Axis, Franco still felt the negative impacts because of earlier decisions to allow those volunteers to fight. It was difficult for Spain to navigate through this, but Franco tried to maintain some balance. Even though Spain was in a tough situation, the country had to face the reality of these political maneuvers.
Absolutely. These decisions affected Spain's place in the world. By allowing volunteers to fight, Franco showed some leanings toward the Axis, which didn't sit well with the Allies. Despite these actions, Franco had to keep the nation together, which was not easy with the political tensions rising. The backlash also showed just how complex the global scene was. Franco's attempts to keep Spain stable amidst all this were crucial for its future. This tells us a lot about Spain's strategic moves in a very volatile time.
The ending of World War II left Spain in a tough spot due to the decisions made earlier. The Allied countries were not happy with Franco's past actions, mainly allowing volunteers to support the Axis powers. This brought some heavy consequences. There was a trade embargo that made Spain's economic situation worse. For instance, everyday items became hard to find, and life got more difficult for all Spaniards as trade with many countries stopped because they were unhappy with Spain's alliance moves.
Indeed, the trade embargo really affected Spain. Franklin Roosevelt, the former U.S. president, had promised that Spain wouldn't face such harsh actions, but that promise was broken after his death. The new leaders chose to keep Spain isolated. Because of this, Spain couldn't join groups like the United Nations until 1955. This delay made Spain feel even more alone on the world stage. Not having ambassadors from key countries made it even more complicated to get help or change the situation quickly.
During this time, Spain was struggling to get essential resources. The Allies made it hard to access oil, which was needed for many things. This was a way to pressurize Franco to stay neutral, but it made recovery from the Civil War slower. Though Franco tried to keep Spain independent of outside influence, it was a hard path. He managed to get some help from friendly nations like Portugal, which provided basic food supplies. However, the lack of oil and trade showed how crucial international ties were.
Yes, maintaining balance was not easy for Franco. Despite his efforts, the diplomatic relations with other countries were strained. Many nations did not immediately trust Spain due to its past decisions to lean toward the Axis. It took a lot of negotiation to slowly mend these relations. The tension with the United Nations and other countries showed the high cost of previous political moves. Spain's challenge was to rebuild trust and economy, which required careful diplomacy in the years that followed.
After the Second World War, Spain found itself in a unique position. With the onset of the Cold War, Spain shifted its alliances. Franco noticed the changing world dynamics and decided it was best to align with the Western nations. Realizing the growing threat of communism, Franco worked on improving relationships with the United States and other Western countries. This was important for Spain because it needed support to recover economically and politically after the challenges it faced during and after the war.
Yes, the Cold War provided Spain with a new chance to rebuild its connections. The United States began to see Spain as a useful partner against the spread of communism. This shift offered Spain some relief from the isolation it had experienced. Franco cleverly used this chance to bring Spain into a new era of cooperation with Western nations. Moreover, this alliance not only helped Spain gain more stability, but also opened up more opportunities for economic growth and development in the following years.
With Spain's new alignment, the tension that existed during the war lessened. Franco ensured that Spain did not become involved in more conflicts. By working closely with Western countries, Spain slowly started to regain its presence on the world stage. This was a smart move because it meant that Spain had the chance to grow without the fear of war. The relationships built during the Cold War began to pay off, paving the way for Spain's future prosperity.
Definitely. The positive effects of aligning with Western nations became clear. Spain's decision to side with the West in the Cold War era showed how international politics could change a country's path. It avoided deeper involvement in wars and maintained peace within its borders. This strategy proved to be beneficial over time. The global environment allowed Spain to stabilize and focus on rebuilding internally. Franco's ability to adapt Spain's international stance became a key factor in its progress and development. Spain's location also played a big role in its story. Being far from the main action helped Spain avoid the worst of the war damage. If this fascinates you, don't forget to like, comment, and follow us. Your support helps us bring more history stories to life. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes. We can't wait to share more about our world's past and its hidden tales with you. Thanks for listening.